Okay, sweet. Okay, I'll discuss that later. Hello, everybody. Welcome to class, and this is the Ultimate FNAF Timeline, presented and researched by me, Harley, and my fellow, what's it called? My fellow professor over there.
Hi.
Alrighty. So, I think we can just begin. Everyone, if you have questions, mention it in the live chat. If you don't, it's okay. You don't even have to use it. Alright, let's begin. This is final thing. This is in preparation for the FNAF movie, so this won't be very specific into the lore. It will be just a generalization essentially, but it should cover hopefully all the things that you do need to know before entering the movie. All right, let's begin. So I think I start off with talking about these lovely folks. So over there on the left is a great family photo of the Afton family. The purple one right there is William Afton. He's a fun little guy. And over there on the left is Michael Afton. He's also a fun little guy. He's his eldest son. Down below on the bottom left is Elizabeth Afton, the William's only daughter, and on the right is Crying Child Afton. And yes, that is his name. We're keeping it as his name because we don't have any other names to use. And then on the right over here is the Emily family. Emily's right there. He's kind of like the big engineer. He's a mechanic. He's like a big smart guy who's an engineer who makes the animatronics. And there's his daughter Charlotte Emily. I forgot to mention this. William Afton is kind of like part of the business side of everything, but all that will be explained. These are kind of just the main characters to really focus on and really know into the lore. And then there's also a bit other characters. We got this fun little guy named Phone Guy, and then we got Jeremy Fitzgerald and Phone Dude. All these guys are just kind of employees who were significant, but they were just kind of, what's it called? But they don't play directly into the lore, if that makes sense. Like, they're just kind of there, but they're still important to keep note of. Other than that, I think that's really all the characters we need to know in the beginning, so take it away, other professor.
So in the top one, the general timeline is what we're going to be discussing today. It covers from 1970 to 20 something. There's all the dates are kind of guessed or like around estimated. The bottom timeline is what you guys are going to miss. It's basically covering everything from theories to canon lore to things in books and games. So yes, and it's still to be continued because there's still more games and books to be made.
The professor mentioned the general timeline hopefully is all you need to know entering the movie and everything. So, without further ado, I'm pretty sure that's all you had to say, right?
Yes.
Okay, then let's begin. So it all begins with good old William and Henry, who wanted to start up good old a nice small local family-owned family diner known as Fredbear's Family Diner. William is like, "Hey Henry, wanna help me on this?" And Henry's like, "Sure, why not?" And this little small local business became a huge success. People in the FNAF universe just really loved animatronics. They could just take their kids there. It was like a sight to see. And eventually, from this nice little image I created here, it kind of showcases how this small business expanded into a large corporation, better known as Fazbear Entertainment. And it all was going well. And obviously, nothing can go wrong when all goes well, right? This is just a nice, lovely company. Yeah, but there's a little hint. It does go wrong. So let's see, how does it go wrong? Do do.
So first, some context on the suits made in or used in the Fredbear's Family Diner. They were called spring lock mechanisms. On the top left, you can see how they work, where it's literally just springs that lock back, which enables the creators Henry and William to both use the suits so they could have more fluid movements and kind of interact with the kids more. while they could also attach them to endoskeletons, so for daily performances and stuff like that. It's important, or yes, it was very revolutionary, and it's important to note that because of the way that they work, they're very sensitive. So there's too much movement or even moisture can make them snap, and it's been discontinued because it led to a lot of fatalities in employees, especially because the springs are just so like long and powerful that it will like pierce their organs. So and so and so and so. It's included in a lot of the books, heavy description on what will happen when someone gets trapped in a suit like that.
Down note there is saying that he's very afraid of animatronics, and his older brother Michael Afton's like, this is something I can use to mess with my little brother. So as you can see in the image here, it's an aftermath of one of Michael Afton's pranks where he kind of like tried to make Crying Child kiss Fredbear, and it kind of goes wrong where Fredbear's mouth kind of nabs at the crying child's head and freaking chomps his head down, causing not only the crying child to be in a coma or even death. It depends on which part of the theories you want to agree with. But this also marks, I want to we want to say like the main catalyst or like the big event that starts this whole train wreck of lore, marking
I would like to know really quick, sorry,
go on.
that the bite was caused by, as previously mentioned, because of too much moisture and too much movement in the Springlock suits, because Crying Child was sobbing and just flailing so much to the fact of the fact that he was that close to an animatronic. That's what is theory to be the reason why he died.
Hmm.
Or gone in a coma, depending.
Oh yeah. And this does mark what is better known as the Bite of 83, which has been misnomered to be the Bite of 87 to some people who don't know that much, but this is considered the Bite of 83. Doo-doo.
I love the puppet. Okay, so some things is that Henry Emily made a security puppet for his only child Charlotte, whose job was just to check in kids that were allowed into the diner by a wristband. However, there were bullies that not only locked Charlotte outside the diner, but also made sure that the puppet couldn't get out and just kind of piled a bunch of stuff on top. Um, Coincidentally and just unfortunately, William Afton was driving by and just kind of jabbed at her in the night. So, Puppet escaped the box, went looking for Charlotte, and they both died next to each. I think Charlotte actually died beforehand, but just being so close and something souls they fused together, and so Charlotte now possesses the security puppet. The reason why William killed Charlotte is very much unknown. Jealousy, boredom, or drunk is just theorized.
I will note the reason why there's the high likelihood that Henry created a security bot to protect his only child is because of the Bite of 83 incident. Since that involved essentially bullies, he kind of wanted to like protect his only child from that from a similar fate and everything. And yes, the other professor's correct about how Williams kind of just like he just kind of just drove by, as you can see, thanks to my nice little image creation here of the entire incident. He kind of just drives by and just goes hippity hoppity, that child's on my property, stab, and that's pretty much what happened. Yes, next bit. And although the reason is still unknown, there are several theories as to why, and this is important to kind of like figure out why William is the way he is. So, did William care, or did he just wanted immortality? Or, as the other professor mentioned, jealousy, according to the books and stuff. I will note that my lovely recreation of the hospital scene that definitely happened. That's just what I like to think happened there. William makes a promise to his son to either rebuild him and hopefully put him back together. But no matter what his reason is, he essentially discovers this thing known as remnant, which I'm pretty sure we both agreed to just call it soul juice, correct?
Soul juice.
Yeah, so it's just soul juice, and he discovers this, and he thinks this could be the key to either giving himself immortality or bringing his son back to life, whichever theory you want to go with. So he gains some smarts, and he eventually develops what was known as Circus Baby's Pizza World and the Funtime animatronics, as you can see here. Now, William was never really an engineer. Again, he was on the business side, but since he was close friends with Henry, he kind of learned how to make some of his own. Maybe he had some help from others, who knows? But he essentially develops these lovely Funtime animatronics with a very clown theme. And of course, as you can see from the blueprints here, if you look closely, there's some sinister aspects to it. William essentially designed the Funtimes and these circus animatronics to kind of lure children alone in a room and snatch them up so that he can bring them back to his like little location so he can conduct experiments on them so he can discover the full potential of soul juice, aka remnant. I think that's everything covered there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Oh, boom.
So
Can
quickly,
I
William's
have a question real
invention.
quick?
Oh,
Oh my god.
I'm
what?
sorry.
No worries. What's the question?
Is Remnant like a canon name or a fandom name?
Canon.
Yeah, it
It is,
is.
okay.
It is canon. And remember, if you have a
Okay.
question, mention it in the live chat.
Sorry.
No worries. Um, go on.
Anyways, so quickly, William's invention backfires when Elizabeth, his only daughter, is um just so interested in one specific animatronic, Circus Baby. So on the opening day, Circus Baby is alone with Elizabeth and scoops her up with this kind of claw that comes out of her stomach. And literally opening day, it closes supposedly due to gas leaks, which is the reason William gave. And just a little bit of theory, this could hint to something that was mentioned in the books, which now fans have deemed canon, which is nightmare gas. We're not going to talk about it, but just something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one thing. The reason why Elizabeth was very interested, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it because William designed Circus Baby to kind of look like his own daughter and stuff? Because I'm pretty.
She's Elizabeth supposedly said that he made baby for her, but then she just wasn't allowed to see her, so it's just really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that and also Williams kind of saying you're not allowed to see this animatronic kind of just shows how he recognized that these animatronics are dangerous. They will nab at any kid, including his own. And
And
damn.
also, side note that since Circus Baby killed Elizabeth by some way, now Elizabeth possesses Circus Baby. So whenever we're talking about the puppet, we mean Charlotte, and whenever we're talking about Circus Baby, we mean Elizabeth.
Yes. Um. And then okay, over here now, since Circus Baby's Pizza World kind of failed, William, from our timeline here, William kind of decided, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go get children myself. So he goes off and at a Fazbear Entertainment uh, location and goes on and kills 5 children, which was later dubbed by the media as the missing children incident. And yes, Soap, you are correct about that. Um, it's known as the missing children incident, and although the method of murder is still kinda unknown, some people think William just stabbed them, others think he stuffed them in the suit and let the spring locks or whatever things kill them or anything like that. But essentially, he kills the children and hides the bodies in suits where nobody really like finds out about this. The newspaper clippings here talk about like how children were going missing week by week. A suspect was apparently found, but since they couldn't find the bodies, they released the man. And the pizzeria shuts down after complaints of oozing and awful smells were noticed from the animatronics. And from the nice little mini game here, the puppet, which was known which is Emily, um, Charlotte Emily. gives life to the corpses of the 5 dead kids, bringing them back to life, hopefully for another chance, because all she thinks about is this. Maybe I can help them because I was murdered just like them. And the restaurant closes shortly after. And the animatronics at the 4 of the 5 missing children from the first incident possessed now are Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And the 5th one possesses the old Fredbear suit, which is known in the series as Golden Freddy and everything. And I'm pretty sure that's all from the first missing children incident. Okay, so silly little goober me forgot to mention that the manner in which that William murdered children. So, and that is a very important detail because it kind of encapsulates what he does later. So, um, for both the first missing children incidents and the second missing children incident, this is essentially what he did. So, good old Willy Dilly Afton here went off to grab the old Spring Bonnie suit, and went off to lure some children into the back room of Freddy Fazbear's, where he would then just murk them. He'd lure them with lies or promises or whatever, just any way to get them to the back. The manner of the murder can either be at just a good old stab in the back or whatever with a knife. Others claim that he picked them up and put them in a spring lock suit so that the spring lock should crush and kill the children themselves. Or the more recent thing is that he kidnapped some of the children, took them back to his house, and kind of experimented them with some hallucinogenic gas to study their fear. That's essentially what happened. And that's the manner in which he murdered. I just thought I needed to clarify that because that is a very important detail. Sorry about missing it, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the video. So let's get back to it. Yeah.
So 1987 is where we don't really have a canon name, so we're just calling it the location of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And the security guard there is Jeremy Fitzgerald, and more kids get murdered there.
Yeah,
Very simple, very straightforward.
yeah. Pretty much William committed more murders, and yeah, the new designs, just to keep note about these because I do love the designs here. They're known as the toy animatronics, and down here are the old suits that the original 5 possessed and everything. There's Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy there. And these toy animatronics were not possessed initially until the second round of murders happened, where William presumably did the same thing and hid the bodies in those same suits. Just to keep note, they're all just like the name just starts with toy, so like Toy Freddy, Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie. There's the puppet right there, good old marionette. Ignore actually, I don't know how substantial Balloon Boy and Balloon Gal are, but this one's important. This one's not Toy Foxy, but actually Mangled, and that's important because this is where the infamous Bite of 87 kicks in. So, as mentioned, Jeremy Fitzgerald was the previous security guard, and he got moved to like the daytime shift where he got to be in charge of a final party before the company closed the location. Which is why we say the most likely victim is Jeremy Fitzgerald, and the way that Mangled kind of like attacks you in the in game feels like it's the right animatronic that would bite off your frontal lobe, which was what the Bite of 87 was very much known for. So Jeremy Fitzgerald most likely got killed off there, and this place fully shuts down after that whole incident. But as a newspaper article here mentions, although the new animatronics would be scrapped, the old withered ones may be reused in a later date, meaning that the old withered animatronics, which had the souls of the original 5 missing children, would continue on possessing those animatronics in a later date. I don't think we actually mentioned it, but the toy animatronics not only got scrapped, but with in game the 7th custom night is most likely someone someone meddling around with the animatronics in the hopes to free up the souls of the dead children in there. But who would do such a thing? Well, that goes towards. Darn it, I was one slide off. Anyways, ignore my setup there.
Imagine could it be me? Okay, so at this time, William goes location where the first animatronics were, and he comes back to break them down. The reason why isn't said. A lot of people think that because of how frantic he was, and specifically this was during a mini game, I think in FNAF 3. But just because of how frantic he is and how like ready he is to like beat up the animatronics, it could be because he was just like regretting or just being like, oh man, they're possessed. I gotta get rid of them. Whatever the reason is, he breaks them down. However, in doing so, the souls are freed from the animatronic suits and they all team up to fight against William. William thinks he's smart enough because there's a suit literally right there. So he like climbs inside it. I don't know how quickly he does it since it's spring locked. Besides the point, because the suit is just so musty, moist, old, and he starts laughing at the kids because they couldn't get him. He gets like he gets snapped, he gets spring locked, and the company just doesn't want to deal with another incident after all the ones that are in its name. So they just kind of like wall him off, and he's just there to rot for 30 years.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And again, just to reiterate, he was demolishing pretty much the original four animatronic suits and stuff. So just regular Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, just those four. And meanwhile, while that was all happening, essentially, I don't know where the "I'm back at the fucking building again" thing comes
It's from
from.
a Sonic. It's from a Sonic video.
Ooh, alrighty. Oh wait, I think I know the one you're talking about. Oh God. Anyways. Ooh, wait. Soap has a question. Takes place after FNAF.
What?
Um, no. The Bite of 87 did not take place after FNAF 1. The I think what you got confused about was that the William after the events of FNAF 2, they start rebuilding for a new location for the withered animatronics, and William essentially took that opportunity to go in and try to either destroy evidence or try to mess with the spirits or anything like that, and that's when he gets spring locked and everything. Um, so pretty much FNAF 1 still takes place after FNAF 2. Did that clarify it? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's my turn, right? Yeah, sorry. Um, Meanwhile, they're back at the original building of the first FNAF game. Yes, FNAF 2 is still a prequel. Which is, as mentioned here, a remake of the original 1983 location. And as you remember, Michael Afton decides to work as a security guard there under the name of Mike Schmidt and everything. Now, why is he there? Well, as I mentioned 2 slides ago, there was someone tampering with the animatronics, hoping to free the souls of the dead children, and the most likely, what's it called? Yeah, no, right there. The most likely reason is because he wants to undo his father's work. He realized that his father's not a great guy and begins trying to undo his work, following wherever his father was known at or where the murdered children could have been, and tries to free their souls. Um, and pretty much that's why he's at each location. In FNAF 2, he most likely, and it's just a theory, most likely goes under the pseudonym of Fritz Smith, which is the Night 7 security guard of just Custom Night. Sorry, misspoke there. And he is most likely the security guard throughout the entirety of FNAF 1, where he's just dealing with the original murdered children. Yes. So recap. Um, William is stuck behind a wall, and Michael is revealed to be trying to undo his father's work.
Yay! Okay. Wait, shit. Okay, I'll just read it from your screen. Okay,
Right.
so Michael goes to so now Circus Baby's Pixel World is called Circus Baby's Rentals. I think there's more to the name, but that was the one I remembered. Because his dad actually told him to. So this took place 10 years after he works at the establishment of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Some probably before William Afton died, William told Michael to find his sister, so he goes there and everything is fine. There's some kind of backstory he gets from the Funtime animatronics. So in the bottom there's Circus Baby, not really called a Funtime, but she's a Circus Baby, Funtime Freddy, Bon Bon, Funtime Foxy, and Ballora. Um, Baby tells this story about how they're just kind of trapped there and just victimizes the hell out of everyone. So Michael feels just compliant as hell. Meanwhile, while he's trying to do his duties, all those animatronics turn into this single entity called Enard, and they do so by scooping each other. Scooping the scooping room and the scooper is something that Circus Baby's rentals use to kind of rip out the insides of each animatronic just because they're just so like bulky and mechanic. That's the easiest way to do it. So Michael gets tricked into going to the scooping room and they basically pull his insides out and crawl inside him to be a skin suit. And he like passes, I think, a week rotting until if you see the little news thing in the corner, he throws up an art into the sewers and then he just comes back because he's too pissed off to die.
There's like there's a bigger theory that explains it has something to do with Remnant, but I think we personally like the idea that he was just so angry at everything that his whole family went through that he just stayed alive. um yeah, pretty much. I will note that um him following his father's orders is trying to place sister location is very difficult on its own. But what I think we decided on is that William at some point did mention about Circus Baby's rentals to Michael, and Michael wanting to undo his father's work probably decided that's the last place to go to because he couldn't find any other place where his father could be. And we know that he's looking for his father because the one of the cutscenes in in the sister location game was of Michael saying, "Father, I'm gonna come find you," and everything, which
Yeah.
yeah, which he does. And there's Ennard and stuff. Also, this is exotic butters. We just had to put that in. Yeah. But 30 years pass, and the thing here is that Fazbear Entertainment kind of went down the shitter. Murdered children after children, kind of tarnished the company's whole like entertainment value. No one really wanted to go there. The animatronics, it just seemed like wherever there was a Freddy Fazbear's, there was tragedy and stuff. So 30 years later, not a lot of work was really happening, and somehow, in some weird, sick sense of humor, someone decided, you know what? Why don't we take the stories that involve all the murdered children and turn it into a horror attraction and call it Fazbear's Fright? So there we go, Fazbear's Fright, 30 years later in good old 2043, or no, 2023 actually. That's actually the canon date, um, or something like that. But pretty much like,
Quick note, really quick. I'm so sorry.
no worries.
Just notice that the 30 years later, just like 30 years later is from FNAF 1, not sister location. So this is 30 years after Michael worked at Five Nights at Freddy's 1.
Good catch. I completely forgot to mention that sister location was happening between those 30 years. Thank you. Um, but like the not so as we mentioned before, Michael is still like just a walking, talking corpse who's still trying to undo his father's work. So when the Fazbear location is opened up, Michael's like, "Huh, maybe this is where I can find my father." So he goes over there, and then, like, on night two, Phone Dude, as we mentioned earlier, gives Michael a call and is kind of saying, "Hey, bud, listen, you won't believe this. We actually have a big the full-on suit. We found it, and we're gonna put it in the location so we can actually have like a main attraction, like the nice little like thing to scare our customers. It's gonna be wonderful. And who else was this but William Afton? As you may remember, he was trapped in the Spring Bonnie suit, in the golden rabbit suit, and he was left to rot for 30 years. And by some slasher horror movie killer miracle, William remained alive and kind of just like is still in the suit. He's walking around kind of like juddery and everything, and he's known as Springtrap now. And the reason why this location is also still important is because Michael is also still trying to continue his work of undoing his father's work by releasing the souls of the dead children. And there was like one child that he could not release yet. He released the original four, Bonnie, Foxy, Freddy, and Chica, but he forgot about the fifth child, who turned out to be, and this is like a slight tangent slash, in the words of my Roots of Hell professor, a slight tangent, but it'll be quick. The Golden Freddy suit is commonly believed to have two souls in it. There's still like a lot of debate about that, but essentially, Michael's goal at Fazbear's Fright was to release that fifth soul that he missed, while also trying to find his father. In my nice little recreation of a possible encounter, there's good old Willy Dilly Afton talking to his son, and he's like, "Oi, son, how you doing?" and stuff, and Michael's like, "Great, you're not looking great," and then good old William's like, "Nope, well, I gotta kill you now," and then Michael's like, "Haha, no, you can't, because."
So Michael ends up trying to cremate William Afton. He tries to burn, or he does burn down Fazbear's Fright. Um, Unfortunately, William Afton escapes the building. If you see in the little newspaper clipping, if you brighten it up like every game developer likes to do, you'll see Springtrap in the background, which was a show back in like 2015. That there was gonna be more games that Springtrap was still out there. So Michael now makes it like a way, like he has to hunt his dad because William is just out there.
Yeah. All right. And the reason why he wanted to burn it was because Remnant, as mentioned before, one of the biggest thing about Remnant is that the most likely way to extinguish um soul juice or remnant or whatever remaining soul inside an animatronic is to burn it and stuff. And that's what Michael wanted to do, and that's why he decided to burn the building down, which, as we can see, did not work. But eventually, Michael wait. Sorry, I gotta take a look at that question. What about the ventilation Fazbear Frights? How does that play into what the security guard sees? Oh, that does play. It plays into us confirming who we're playing as. Since the ventilation causes the player to hallucinate, there's only one animatronic in the building, and that's Springtrap. But the other animatronics they encounter are known as the Phantom animatronics, and the Phantom animatronics, are essentially just like dirtied up, burnt versions of previous animatronics, such as Chica, Balloon Boy, Freddy, the Mangled, and the Marionette or the puppet. So it's the ventilation kind of just shows us that, hey, this person knows of these old characters, so it's someone we've known in the past and stuff, or someone who's interacted with them in the past. Yes, essentially kind of saying like there can only be really one guy who knows all of them, or who should logically know all of them for all of this to make sense. Um, so there's so after the events of Fazbear Frights, Michael finds work as a new manager at a new location. Fazbear Entertainment is kind of like they don't want to give up when they really should. Tragedy keeps happening, building keeps getting burned down, children are being murdered, but they're like, you know what? We want money. Let's do more. So pretty much Michael ends up working at a new location, and he kind of uses the place as a way to attract all of the remaining um all of the remaining haunted animatronics that were out there in the hopes to kind of like maybe get them all in the right place and figure something out from there. And Michael, that's how desperate Michael is. So Michael, what's it called? Was able to successfully lure in the puppet who took over this black Freddy suit known as Lefty. He was able to lure his sister, Scrap Baby, Elizabeth, and he was able to bring in Molten Freddy, who was the remaining of Ennard. Um, how do I explain this? Other professor, do you want to take a shot at the Molten Freddy bit?
Molten Freddy is like it teases with how I see it. It teases with Remnant because I think it's described in the book. I'm not sure if it's like in any of like other media, but I know from the book that Remnant is described to be like orange and sometimes it could be a powder. So not only a juice, but it could turn into a powder. And so that's what Molten Freddy is just essentially that's why he's orange because of Remnant. And for some reason they're able to kick Circus Baby out of their little like amalgamation and the face is just Funtime Freddy.
Hmm. Which is where the name
Also,
Molten.
really quickly, from what I recall from Pixaria Simulator, it wasn't Fazbear Entertainment that started the whole restaurant in a package, but rather it was Henry pretending to be like some sort of like, oh yeah, let's restart this thing.
Yes.
And not
Um,
knowing that it was Michael that took up the position. They knew each other, but they didn't know it was them.
yeah, I think it was actually more like Henry was the one who wanted to lure them, and Michael just happened to end up being like, "Oh hey, this is cool," and take took up the position and everything. But oh, and the final animatronic they lure back is Scrap Trap, which is William. The reason the names change is because the freaking series keeps making new designs every new series and everything. But essentially, he brings back everyone. Michael, with the help of Henry, or Henry, with the help of Michael, brings back all the animatronics into one singular location to do the only one same thing that anyone should ever do with haunted animatronics that can't seem to die.
You burn them. So Henry gives this epic speech, and if given the chance, I could recite it. I have it out, but basically it's revealed you throughout the game you don't know that you're talking with Henry, and if you haven't been caught up with the lore at all, this true ending, the game has multiple endings. This true ending is going to be super confusing. And apart from that, I don't think it necessarily mentions that it is Henry talking, but it's Henry. And turns out he had this whole plan to burn the animatronics because he also somehow knew about Remnant and how it has to be at some precise degree or else it would just spoil. So
Mm.
he just says burn it down. Apart from that, he mentions that he's not leaving the building. Um Hold on. It's somewhere in the little speech he gives where he's like, I I'm gonna stay here and I know that you, aka the player, aka Michael, aren't gonna leave, but I had an exit for you. So that's like a hint that the player is Michael. That's the hint that it's Henry. That's the hint that he knew about everything and he just wanted it all to end. Um, he just burned it down.
Yeah, and
Here it is. Here it is in the
ooh,
text. But you'll never find them. He's talking about Elizabeth first being like, you're a murderous animatronic. You'll never find children. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, aka Michael, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you, although there was a way planned out for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you're right where you want to be. I'm remaining as well. I'm nearby.
yee, yeah, yeah, pretty much all, just like all they said. It's literally just them trying to bookend everything, including themselves, because they know if some weird thing of just wanting everything to end because there's just so much tragedy, sadness, and death that surrounds Freddy Fazbear's that it just needs to go. But
Burn them again.
hell yeah, that's the only solution. So yeah, pretty much like Scrap Baby gets burnt. Molten Freddy gets burnt. Lefty gets burnt. So those souls are most likely freed off to wherever the hell souls go in this universe. Michael presumably also gets burnt to a crisp along with Henry, kind of bookending that family's whole timeline. And William over here, um, God, if I remember the quote exactly, Henry did say to William, and but I know for one of you, the darkest pit of in hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. And he's talking to William because
Wonderful.
he knows that William is there, and since William is kind of like the main driving force for everything that went wrong with the company and their families, he has a lot of hatred and hopes William goes to hell. Which he does. So William dies, his soul goes to the deep underworld known as Hell. But he gets to relive the horrors of his crimes over and over again in a personal hell curated by someone dubbed the one you should not have killed, which is a crazy statement when you consider that there's like multiple children who have died under William's hand, and there was like one that proclaimed themselves as like you shouldn't have killed me. There's like a reason behind it. I think it's because William most likely this one child was the one that William killed the most violently, but that's besides the case. Essentially, one child who was the other soul inside of Golden Freddy was like, William, I'm gonna spend the rest of eternity making you suffer. So, and that hell is seen in Ultimate Custom Night. Just William reliving, being pitted against animatronic after animatronic in various degrees of difficulty and insanity, just suffering in that hell where he suffers for the rest of eternity. And and although I would love to go into more in depth about that because I wrote a Roots of Hell paper on it, which I'm very proud of. You should read it if you haven't, but that's essentially where the general timeline ends there. William goes to hell and suffers the consequences of his actions at the hands of one of his victims. And I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there's
Unless
like
we want to go into the full timeline.
no, no, I'll lose my sanity. You're you're more of the expert of that new stuff. I'm more of the expert of the old stuff. The new stuff scares me. But I think
Any questions, comments in the chat?
oh yes, any questions, comments or concerns or clarifications. As mentioned, this
Anyone who
whole
wants to hear the entire timeline?
um I will um
Since it's ongoing and it starts at like 1970 to around like 2030, I think the like hypothetical year of security breach is the 2030. So do the math. I don't know.
yeah,
60 years?
yeah, I want to say it spanned over if we're ignoring when William and all of them were born, the main events kind of happen within the span of like 60 years, accumulating to the final burning at the pizzeria location with Henry and Michael.
Someone wants the whole timeline.
Yes, I see that, and I will
I
stop.
could skim it.
Should we keep that in the recording, or should we stop the recording right now? And
I
then,
think stop the recording
okay,
here.
yes, okay, and I'll maybe help on whatever general timeline or the bigger timeline that I know. But yeah, that's a presentation, everyone. Thanks for watching. I know it's kind of informal, but the both of us wanted to like do this thing because I know both of our friend groups and everyone wanted us to collab on something FNAF related, and what better yet than just to drum up the big movie that's coming up this Friday, which I'm so excited for. Freddy, aren't I excited? Oh, you're sleeping. Anyways, but I'm so excited for. I might genuinely cry in theaters watching it just because I've been dedicated to this bloody franchise for so long. It's
I'm gonna get out of the theater with bruises.
yeah. Hopefully, and the reason why it is important to know a little bit about the lore is because Jason Blum and Scott Cawthon has said that they made the film not exclusively, but mostly for the fans. They didn't want to make the film try to lure new people into the franchise. They wanted to make a film that the fans would enjoy because they knew that they would be the ones to get the most joy out of this whack, insane timeline of events and lore. And if you thought this one was confusing, the bigger timeline is worse. Or like not worse. I shouldn't. It's it's more.
That's
Um
because we didn't go into all the theories, all the lore. And you want to know what remnant is?
Yeah, we kind of did oversimplify Remnant as there's apparently layers to it. Remnant is like the main thing, but there's like the fuel source is agony or something like that. I realize I have not stopped recording yet, so I'm just gonna say final bye. If you're watching this recording, thank you for watching.
Bye bye.
Yeah. Wah.